Welcome everyone for the astrology capsule for the month of August 2018. So let's do a brief recap of what happened in July, right? With this, especially with this total lunar eclipse on July 27, because all the energy that will be triggered at that time will be connected to Venus in August. So this is very key. And how is this happening? Very simple. At the point where the moon was during the total lunar eclipse on July 27, which is right here in at the beginning of Aquarius. So we still have the same planets that were there accompanying the moon during this full moon and of course total lunar eclipse. So we still have Mars, South Node and Lilith present right there, and they are forming a trine with Venus right here in Libra. So this trine is important because it shows a transfer of energy from that point, that area that, you know, this during the total lunar eclipse. We talked about it during the previous capsule, and a lot of energy have been triggered by this total lunar eclipse. And at that moment where I'm talking right now, this eclipse didn't happen yet, so we're still preparing for it. So it's quite interesting to hear what will come next so we can prepare even better for that total lunar eclipse. So that connection with Venus is key because Venus will be a very important planet in August 2018. It will have two very important squares. One with Saturn that we see at the new moon. This is the chart for the new moon of August 2018. So Venus in square with Saturn. So that square will be important. There will be another square with Pluto during the full moon of August 2018. So two of them, and very important. So all the energy that has been triggered during the lunar total eclipse of July, so July 27th, are connected to Venus, will be kind of transferred to Venus. And what does that mean? It means that all those energies that we worked on during this eclipse will now flow, will move within us into an area of vulnerability, of beauty, because our beauty is very vulnerable. Beauty is attractive, so it's kind of calling for energies to come and look at it, to see it. In the meantime, it's very vulnerable because it's not a fighter. It's just beautiful, right? So what can you do with beauty? You can do a lot of bad things to beauty because it's there, it's almost perfect, and everybody wants it, right? So very often it creates fights and so on, so it's complicated to deal with beauty. So it's the same within ourselves. Any area of calmness, of beauty, of inspiration connected to Venus within us, all those areas are very attractive. So when we live a blessed moment, when we live something, a really high inspiration, some entities will feel that and they will want to have their share of that inspiration. They will want their share of that energy, right? So it demands a lot of discipline to use our beauty in a proper way. And the month of August will be all about questioning how do we deal with our own beauty, our own vulnerability. First one is a square with Saturn during the new moon. That's what we have here. So during that square, Saturn is in Capricorn. We see it right there. Saturn in Capricorn, he is governing Capricorn, Saturn. So he's very strong, and also in Libra, Saturn is exalted. So he knows exactly, he's very good, Saturn, to weigh, to measure the karma of others. Because Libra is about relationships, all our relations in the world, and partnerships, relationships, all those connections we have with people that are really strong. So Libra is a lot about that. And Saturn knows, is very good to measure what is the karma of the people we're connected with. So since he feels that right away, he can question how how we deal with that beauty. What charge, what energy, what weight do we connect to our beauty? Is our beauty protected through this or not? You know, if we connect our beauty to really heavy energies, it's very harsh on our own beauty, on our own vulnerability. What is our own respect for ourselves, for the beauty of our body as well? That's a very good, very simple image. Do you respect your body? Do you sleep enough? Do you take care of yourself? You know, all those things. How do you manage your beauty? And do you connect it with heavy, difficult things? Do you let your beauty go through very difficult situations? So all those questions Saturn will be asking. And it's a moment to weigh all this, to think about it. Will be a lot in our Venus because Mercury, so our mental capacity, is actually in conjunction with Sun and Moon. So actually the new Moon, that's what creates the new Moon, a conjunction with Moon and Sun. So Mercury is right there in Leo, and all those are in square with Jupiter. So that creates a big tension between our mental capacity and our way to manage our life, which is Jupiter, especially in Scorpio, is able to manage and deal with a lot of deep energies and so on. So that's very tricky. It's like our mental capacity won't be very, very strong. It will be trying to show a little bit, of course, because it's still in Leo and a lot of energy with the Moon and Sun conjunction. So it will be there strong, but there will be some foggy area between this and how we manage our life. So that won't be the strongest part of ourselves. Will be much more within our Venus. Our Venus will be very strong. So our vulnerability, just our beauty, will be in our beauty in August. And this part of us will be in square with Saturn. So the questions will be strong. What we connect our beauty with, you know, what we do with it. So that's very, very important at that square. Now let's have a look at the new moon of August 2018. We see the second square of Venus, this one, Venus at 18 degrees in Libra, with Pluto at 19 degrees. So that square now bring the same work a little bit deeper. It brings it within the realm of commitment, engagement in our relationships. So before with the square with Saturn, we were measuring, you know, the karma of others. Can we connect our beauty, our vulnerability with those people? Is it okay? Is it all right? You know, maybe we could change some relationships. That was with Saturn. Now with Pluto, it's about commitment and engagement. So we will now it's time to look at our engagement and choose if we want to go further with those engagement commitments. So it's about, do we change them or not? Or do we want to go further with them? Do we want to generate new commitment with new people, with our beauty, with our vulnerability? Do you want to, you know, do we feel comfortable sharing our vulnerability with those people with which we're in relationships? Are we able to share that vulnerability to create the future? That would be the question that Pluto brings. And if we're not, it's a time to create something, to create a wish, to create a prayer almost regarding the future for us. It's about creating a call for that commitment that we want, actually. So if you are in a relationship, if you form a couple, that's a really strong question for couples, actually. Those squares with Venus will be very, very important. It's a strong moment where we'll be feeling our couple, the situation of our relationship within our couple. Very, very important, because we will feel our vulnerability, our beauty, and we'll feel the engagement that we have with others regarding this vulnerability. So that's very important. And again, since Mercury was retrograding and Leo, then it came back up, and so at the full moon, it's still in square with Jupiter. So there's still some kind of foggy area within our mental capacity, within our ability to take decisions and to follow our own personal interests and to make the choices that will help us, right? Because Mercury helps us to calculate, to think, oh, if I do this, it will bring me that, and so on. So our interest will kind of fade away and our vulnerability will show up way more. So that's for August 2018. Very, very strong. And another aspect that is key during the full moon, remember we worked a lot with Saturn with Saturn and Moon during the last months. We saw that at the full moon, the degree where the moon during the full moon was the same as Saturn, because Saturn was retrograding. So they kept the same kind of rhythm for a while. They were really close to each other, so always expecting each other during the full moon, not in the same sign, but always at the same degree of their own respective sign. So they were expecting each other for a long time. So there's a work with Saturn and Moon that is going since a long time, and that's something that we talked a lot about. And now it's very interesting what's happening. We see that Sun in Virgo is opposing the Moon in Pisces, so that forms the full moon. Full moon is always formed by an opposition of Sun and Moon. And then both of them are aspecting the planets that form a trine here, which are Saturn in Capricorn and Uranus in Taurus. So it creates let's say we start from the Sun. From the Sun in Virgo, it creates a trine with Uranus and Taurus, and then a sextile with the Moon in Pisces, then another sextile with Saturn in Capricorn, and then another trine with the Sun in Virgo. And we can see that figure there. There's also a trine between Saturn and Uranus in the same geometric figure. So we see that it's very beautiful, there's a nice symmetry in it. It's very beautiful to look at, and it's all blue lines, right? So it's all trines and sextiles. So it's very harmonious, and this aspect is a connection between all the work we did with the full moons and the Moon and Saturn during months and months, like about 6 months, that they were following each other. Now this is coming to its end. There will be one more month of that, maybe two, but I think it's only one more. And then it's going to be it, right? So we're getting at the end of that very intense work that happened. And now this work is connecting with the arrival of Uranus in Taurus. And this is very important because Uranus will do a great work that will last for 7 to 8 years in Taurus. So now, like the stars are connecting both works together. So everything we did, everything we personally did with this connection with Saturn and the Moon during the full moons, all that we worked on, now the stars ask us to connect that with the work that Uranus will be doing in Taurus for 7 to 8 years. So this is a very important moment, very key. And it's a very precious moment because it allows us to think and to see in a greater perspective how the stars are working. Why do we talk about the stars? Why do we do astrology like this? Because the stars are proposing us a certain, when I say the stars, it's about, those, let's say, celestial entities. It's like beautiful entities that are proposing this to us. And they propose a certain work, but there's never an end to that because they tie it to another work, to another cycle. And this aspect right there is exactly the expression of that. So you can see how the stars are working within that very aspect. It's very beautiful. It's very poetic, very, very, very pretty. It's really, really nice how that works. It's just such an harmony. It's so inspiring. It's so beautiful. So you see all the work you did those last 6 months in your own personal life. All this now, the stars are tying it to Uranus and Taurus. And we talked a bit about Uranus and Taurus when it just entered Taurus. And we know that it's going to do a huge work on changing the things that are already, you know, in track, meaning that they are already set since a long time and they are very stable, they just keep going and so on. And we know that Uranus is able to change those things and to change them into something else that will be very stable, but it just needs a little tweak. It just needs to change a little bit. So it's going to change it so that we create a new stable basis for the future. So that's Uranus and Taurus. So you see all the work we did with Saturn and Moon. Now we tie it with this work of Uranus and Taurus, because we're still at the very first moments of Uranus and Taurus. If we look at it on a 7 to 8 years cycle, it's still the very beginning of that. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, you can comment, ask any question you want. You can like, share everything, subscribe. And by the way, thank you everyone. We finally reached the 1,000 subscribers. So there might be a few more options popping up, I think, like a super chat next to the video. So if you have some questions, sometimes while I'll be online, I'll be able maybe to answer right away. And we'll be kind of chatting. That will be, I think, really cool. It's a really nice way to go deeper into all those aspects. So if you do have any question, please ask them in the comments and feel very comfortable with this. I hope that brings some inspiration for most of you. So thank you very much and see you next time for the next capsule.